Imagine a life where you wake up and no longer feel the weight of everyone's expectations on your shoulders. A life where you don't waste your energy trying to please people, explain yourself, or overthink every little thing. Imagine moving through your day without the constant noise of self-doubt or the need for approval, where your peace no longer depends on other people's moods, opinions, or behaviors. That kind of life is not a fantasy. It's what happens when you stop caring about what doesn't matter and start living with intention, clarity, and inner freedom. In this video, inspired by deep Buddhist wisdom, you'll discover 7 powerful lessons to help you let go, step back, and finally feel what it means to be truly happy every single day. 1. Let go of the rope that's burning your hand. Many of us are walking through life silently hurting, and not because of what's actually happening around us, but because of what we keep holding on to inside. It's like we're gripping a rope that's slowly burning our hand, but we refuse to let go. That rope could be the constant need to be accepted by others, the fear of letting someone down, the pressure to always get things right, or painful memories from the past that we haven't healed from. The longer we hold on, the more it hurts us, but we don't even realize that the pain is coming from our grip, not the rope itself. In Buddhism, this kind of suffering is called attachment. It means clinging to things, people, thoughts, emotions, situations, as if they are permanent and ours to control. But life doesn't work that way. Everything is always changing, and the more we try to hold on to what is meant to pass, the more we suffer. We trap ourselves in emotional cycles of stress, sadness, and confusion simply because we won't loosen our grip. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or running away. It means understanding that you cannot control everything and that peace comes when you stop trying to. You don't have to keep replaying that painful memory. You don't have to chase someone's approval to feel worthy. You don't have to worry so much about tomorrow. You can let go. Picture this. You're standing still with your hand clenched tightly around a rope, and it's cutting into your skin. All it takes to stop the pain is to release it. Just open your hand. Just breathe. Just allow the moment to be what it is, without needing it to be anything else. That is the beginning of real freedom. That's where happiness starts. Not in controlling life, but in learning how to stop being controlled by it. Second, stop seeking approval, and you'll discover who you are. From a young age, most of us are taught to look outside of ourselves for permission to feel good. We're praised when we do what others like. We're corrected when we don't fit their expectations. Over time, without realizing it, we begin to measure our worth by how others respond to us. We become so used to chasing approval from parents, teachers, friends, society, that we forget to ask ourselves the most important question: do I approve of who I am? When you live your life constantly trying to please others, you start shaping yourself like clay, changing your form depending on who's watching. You hide parts of yourself that feel too different. You stay quiet when you want to speak. You say yes when your soul screams no. And slowly, day by day, you lose the connection to your true self. But Buddhism teaches that true happiness comes from within, not from applause, not from compliments, and not from outside validation. The more you depend on others to make you feel seen, the more fragile your happiness becomes. Because what happens when they stop clapping? What happens when they don't understand you, or when they reject you? If your peace depends on being liked, it will vanish the moment someone doesn't. Let this be your gentle reminder. You do not need to be understood by everyone to live a meaningful life. Not everyone will get you. Not everyone will agree with your choices. And that's okay. The tree doesn't bend just to please the wind. The moon doesn't glow only when someone's watching. They exist fully, simply, and beautifully, just as they are. And so can you. When you stop chasing validation, something powerful happens. You begin to hear your own voice again. You start to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I believe? Who do I want to be? You begin to live from the inside out, not the outside in. And that shift is where your real strength and joy begin. The moment you stop caring about impressing others is the moment you finally impress your own soul. 3. Embrace impermanence. Everything is meant to change. One of the biggest reasons people suffer is because they expect things to stay the same. We want the good moments to last forever. We want people to always treat us the way they once did. We want routines, relationships, feelings, and even our sense of self to remain constant. But life doesn't work like that. Everything you can see, touch and feel is in a constant state of movement. The seasons shift, the weather changes, our bodies grow older, friendships evolve, emotions rise and fall like waves. This is what Buddhism calls anicca, the truth of impermanence. When you fight against change, you create your own suffering. It's like trying to hold on to a river with your bare hands. The more tightly you try to grip it, the more it slips through your fingers and the more frustrated you become. But the river was never meant to stay still. It was meant to flow. Often the pain we feel isn't because something ended. It's because we believed it should have lasted forever. We get attached to how things were. We cling to a version of life of a person, or even of ourselves, that no longer exists. And that attachment makes us feel stuck, lost or broken when change arrives. But Buddhism invites us to see impermanence not as a threat, but as a gift. Because if nothing ever changed, there would be no growth, no healing, no second chances, no new beginnings. Imagine being stuck in a bad moment forever. Change is what saves us. It's what allows wounds to close, hearts to open, and wisdom to blossom. When you embrace impermanence, you begin to live differently. You appreciate people more deeply because you know they won't be around forever. You value the present moment because you understand it won't come again. You learn to let go gracefully when something ends, knowing it made space for something else to begin. You stop needing everything to be perfect because you know perfection was never the goal. Presence was. So if something in your life is changing right now, try not to resist it. Try not to cling to what was. Instead, gently remind yourself that nothing is meant to stay the same. Not joy, not sorrow, not even you. Breathe through it. Flow with it. Trust that just as the sun sets, it always rises again. And in that acceptance you'll discover a kind of happiness that isn't shaken by the changing winds of life. From the moment we open our eyes each morning, the world begins to speak, sometimes softly, sometimes with overwhelming volume. The moment you pick up your phone, scroll through social media, check messages or glance at headlines, you are flooded with noise. Opinions telling you how to live, ads convincing you what you lack, comparisons quietly whispering that who you are is not enough. And without even realizing it, your sense of peace becomes tangled in a web of expectations, distractions, and emotional overstimulation. This external noise, when absorbed daily, doesn't just cloud your mind. It begins to blur your identity, drown your intuition, and pull you away from the calm center within you. Buddhism teaches us the value of mindful detachment, a spiritual discipline that doesn't mean running away from life, but rather learning how to not get pulled under by it. It's about recognizing when the noise around you is becoming the noise inside you. It's about understanding that your mind, like a lake, becomes muddy when constantly disturbed, and only in stillness can it reflect clarity again. In ancient monasteries, monks would spend hours in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because they wanted to hear something deeper. They knew that beyond the surface chatter of the mind, there is a deeper knowing, a still, clear awareness that lives within each of us. But you don't need to be in a monastery to find that silence. You just need to pause, step away, breathe. In your daily life, this might look like taking a few quiet minutes before checking your phone, sitting under a tree and simply listening to the wind, going for a walk without headphones, allowing your thoughts to slow and your senses to awaken. It could mean choosing not to argue, not to scroll, not to react. It's in these simple moments of detachment that you begin to feel grounded again. You begin to remember who you are beneath the noise. Detachment also means not being overly reactive. Not every comment needs your response. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every notification is urgent. You can allow life to unfold around you without becoming emotionally entangled in every ripple. You become the still center in the middle of the storm, calm, aware, untouched. This is what Buddhism calls equanimity, a steady heart in a shaky world. And the more you cultivate it, the less power the outside world has over your inner world. You no longer feel the constant need to prove yourself, compete, or be everywhere at once. You stop measuring your value through likes, followers, or social approval. You begin to feel a quiet joy in being fully present, in doing less but feeling more, in saying less but meaning more, in simply being instead of always performing. So if you feel lost, overwhelmed, or disconnected from yourself, it may be because the world's noise has grown louder than your own voice. And that's okay. The beautiful thing is that your center is always there, patiently waiting. You don't need to create it. You only need to return to it. And each time you do, you step into a deeper kind of happiness, one that doesn't come from the outside world, but rises gently from within. 5. You are not your thoughts. Don't believe everything the mind says. One of the most liberating truths Buddhism teaches is this: your thoughts are not who you are. They are not permanent. They are not facts. And most importantly, they are not always telling the truth. Yet most of us live our lives believing every thought that passes through our minds, as if each one is a command, a reflection of reality, or a judgment worth holding on to. We forget that the mind is like a radio. It constantly plays, but we don't have to listen to every station. Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Some are light and pleasant. Others are dark and heavy. Some make you feel inspired. Others drag you into fear, shame, or self-doubt. But no matter how intense they seem, clouds are not the sky, and thoughts are not your identity. They come and go, but the sky, the pure, quiet awareness beneath them, remains untouched. That sky is your true self. Buddhism encourages us to observe our thoughts, not become entangled in them. When you hear your mind say, "I'm not good enough," you don't have to argue or believe it. You can simply notice it. Ah, there is that thought again. Just like hearing a bird sing or a car pass by, you can observe the thought without needing to hold on to it. You begin to treat the mind like a visitor rather than a ruler. It speaks, but it no longer controls how you feel. The problem is, most of us are never taught how to relate to our thoughts in this way. We confuse thinking with truth. If your mind says you're a failure, you might believe it. If it says they don't like you, you might shrink or become anxious. But the mind is not always working in your best interest. Often, it repeats fears from the past, echoes of others' criticism, or beliefs you adopted without questioning. That voice of judgment in your head. It was often planted there by someone else long ago, and just because it's loud doesn't mean it's right. Learning to observe your thoughts without getting attached is one of the most powerful spiritual skills you can build. It doesn't mean you have to silence your mind completely. That's not possible. It means creating space. It means understanding that you have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that notices them come and go. With time, this awareness becomes like a calm lake, reflecting whatever appears, but not holding on to any of it. Whether a stone of fear is thrown in or a leaf of joy touches its surface, the lake remains unchanged at its core. When you grasp this, you start to notice a deep shift in your emotional life. Anxiety no longer drags you down because you see it as just a passing wave, not the entire ocean. Self-doubt no longer paralyzes you because you recognize it as a habit of the mind, not a fixed truth. Anger moves through you more quickly because you stop fueling it with your attention. And in the space between your thoughts and your reaction, you discover your freedom. So the next time your mind offers you something painful, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? And if it's hurting you, gently let it go. Don't argue with it. Don't fight it. Just don't follow it. Instead, return to the stillness beneath the noise. The more you practice this, the more you'll see that happiness doesn't come from controlling your thoughts. It comes from knowing that you are not trapped by them. You are their witness, and that is your power. Many people spend their whole lives chasing happiness, as if it's a distant treasure waiting at the end of some perfect moment. They believe happiness will come once everything is fixed, once they have more money, once their body changes, once someone loves them the right way, or once all their problems disappear. But this way of thinking keeps you stuck in an endless cycle of waiting for someday, waiting for permission, waiting for peace to finally appear. Buddhism gently reminds us, happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you come back to. It's already here. The reason you can't feel it is because your mind is always elsewhere, caught in regrets from the past or fears about the future, focused on what's missing instead of what's present. The truth is, you're not unhappy because your life is missing something. You're unhappy because you've forgotten how to be with the life you already have. This is the great secret of mindful living. The present moment is never the enemy. It's not broken. It's not incomplete. It's not standing in your way. The present moment is where your real life is unfolding, and everything you're searching for is already hidden within it. But when your mind is always rushing to the next thing, you miss the beauty that's right in front of you. You overlook the sunlight streaming through the window, the sound of the breeze moving through the trees, the quiet joy of a warm meal, a deep breath, or a gentle smile. Happiness isn't some big event. It's not something you unlock by achieving more. It's not waiting for you in a future where everything is perfect. In fact, the more you chase happiness, the more restless you become. Because the moment you get what you thought would bring you joy, your mind moves the finish line. You start craving something else, something more, something better, and the chase never ends. But stillness, presence, and acceptance, that's where happiness patiently waits. Buddhism teaches us to slow down, to breathe, and to simply be. Not to fix, control, or perfect, but to notice, to appreciate, and to fully engage with whatever is happening right now. Even in difficulty, even in pain, there is a quiet sacredness in the present moment if we are willing to meet it without resistance. This doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means understanding that peace doesn't come from changing the moment, but from changing how we relate to it. Try this. Wherever you are right now, take a slow breath. Feel your body resting where it is. Notice the space around you. Feel the air on your skin, the temperature, the quiet between sounds. Let yourself fully arrive in this moment, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. This is your life. This is where happiness lives, not in what you wish it could be, but in what it already is, if you're willing to see it. And the more you practice presence, the more you realize that peace isn't rare. It's not something you have to earn after years of effort. It's available in every moment you choose to slow down and actually live your life instead of rushing through it. So stop waiting for the next big thing to save you. Stop believing that joy is always somewhere else. Let go of the chase. Sit down. Breathe. Come back to this moment. It's enough. You are enough. And within that gentle awareness, happiness quietly unfolds, not as a prize, but as your natural state, softly remembered. 7. Compassion over control. Free yourself by freeing others. There's a quiet but exhausting struggle that many people live with every day, the need to control. The need to control how others think, how they treat us, how life unfolds, how things end, how emotions stay contained, how everything goes according to plan. But underneath that need for control is often fear, a fear of being hurt again, a fear of being misunderstood, a fear that if we don't hold on tightly, everything will fall apart. So we cling to people, to outcomes, to timelines, and without realizing it, we chain ourselves to suffering. Buddhism offers us a different way, a gentler, wiser, more compassionate way. It teaches us that peace doesn't come from forcing the world to match our desires, but from loosening our grip on the need for it to do so. When you choose compassion over control, you set yourself free, because control is built on tension, while compassion is rooted in love. Control tries to push and force reality. Compassion learns to accept it. Control demands certainty. Compassion finds peace in understanding, even when nothing is certain. Think about how much energy we waste trying to fix what we cannot fix, trying to change people who aren't ready to change, trying to force closure where only silence exists, trying to rewrite the past through regret. And yet, the harder we push, the more frustrated we become. Why? Because we're pushing against life itself. But what if you stopped? What if, instead of tightening your grip, you softened it? What if you allowed people to be who they are, even if it hurts sometimes? What if you forgave, not because someone apologized, but because you no longer wanted to carry that pain inside you? What if you let go of the idea that everyone has to understand you, agree with you, or walk the same path? You would feel lighter, more at peace, not because the world changed, but because you did. Compassion is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's the deep inner strength to love and let go at the same time, to say, I see who you are, and I release the need to control your journey. It's offering kindness even when someone doesn't meet your expectations. It's letting go of resentment because your heart is too valuable to hold bitterness. It's choosing to wish someone well, even if they've hurt you, because your peace matters more than revenge or validation. And this same compassion must also turn inward. Stop trying to control your healing. Stop forcing yourself to get over it when you're still hurting. Stop judging yourself for not being where you thought you'd be by now. You are growing moment by moment.